Hey guys, Courtney here with SOR Enduro Racing. This season, we're bringing some exciting changes. In addition to our Sprint Enduro series, we're thrilled to announce the inclusion of 2 cross-country races. Join us this season to put your skills and speed to the test as you race against the clock on our Sprint Enduro special tests and showcase your strength and endurance on our cross-country courses. Head over to our Instagram page at SOR Enduro Racing or our webpage at www.sorenduroracing.livelats.com for more information. Remember guys, keep it between the tape.
Hey, it's Noel from the Enduro Bureau. Welcome to the Enduro Bureau Podcast, episode 8. Tonight, it's just me. My partners in crime, Courtney and Jared, are tied up, unfortunately, with some stuff for their race series, the SOR Enduro series that's starting up here in 2 weeks. So they're pretty slammed right now. So they've sent their apologies. And unfortunately for our guest, it's just me and the guest. So again, I apologize to you, guest and listener. But yeah, so tonight we've got someone who I met last year when I went down to the States to cover Endurocross. Was aware of her from her hard enduro exploits and a few other things like in the moto world. She's the 2023 US Hard Enduro Women's Champion. She was the 2023 Endurocross third overall in women's. And I'd like to welcome Hallie Marks, Sherco USA and Sisters Moto. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, how are things going?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
I know you were out riding. I just saw a post and you had mentioned you were going to be out riding today.
Yep.
How'd it go?
It went really good. Super fun. It's finally some rideable weather here in Montana, so I'm super
No
stoked.
kidding. Did you guys get hit with that snowstorm that we got up here as well? Just the last few days?
Yes. Yes, we did. And luckily it melted quick enough, so I was able to get out there on the bike today.
Yeah, a lot of melting going on up here too. Hopefully things are going to open up here a little bit more. I think I just saw something today where the big motocross track here in Calgary is looking to open hopefully this weekend coming up. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it'll be really good. It'll be exciting to be able to have people riding, for me to be able to go out and shoot and do all that stuff on the regular.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I mean, other exciting stuff. I saw you got a new truck.
I did. I got a Ford Raptor. I'm super
Come
stoked
on
about that.
now.
So
What's not to be stoked
dream
about?
truck.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Just saw a good deal.
Yeah.
It was in Washington, so of course I had to go look at it, and yeah, it turns out it was good enough deal that I bought it. So
Nice. You drove it
I'm
back.
super stoked about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. No issues, nothing like that.
Nope, it's a great truck. So
Excellent. Have you
really reliable from what I've seen so
yeah,
far, but
yeah. Have you named it?
not yet. I have some ideas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't named it quite yet.
What was your last vehicle? Did it have a name?
I had a blue Chevy Colorado, and I named her the Blue Bandit.
The Blue Bandit. Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And your new truck, is it blue or black?
It's black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to tell from the pictures, but I'm
Yeah, it's black.
yeah, I struggle with those dark colors. It's almost like I'm colorblind, which is not cool, seeing as like I'm
You're good.
a photographer. What a loser. So yeah, welcome. Thanks so much for doing this. When we started the podcast and Jared, Courtney, and I were talking about it, you were one of the names that came up in the list of people we wanted to have early on. So really excited you could make it. And again, sorry on behalf of Jared and Courtney. I know they really wanted to be here. Couldn't make it work today.
It's
so what
totally fine.
Okay, so I hit a couple of highlights there. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how would you introduce Hallie Marks?
So I'll start out by saying my name's Hallie Marks. I'm 19 years old, and I've been riding dirt bikes ever since I was 6. So that's 13 years now. And I live in Clancy, Montana, so it's a little bit harder to ride up here because of the extreme cold weather that we have, but I live on a ranch here, so I'm guess what you could say, the full-on ranch and cowgirl on the side,
You're the most
and
Yellowstone person I
yeah.
know.
Well, Yellowstone's good. I would say that it's a little disappointing with how realistic it is, though,
Uh,
on the other hand, but
but
I like the storyline.
you haven't been bombed yet? Like, you haven't been blown up or?
Oh, it's definitely affected us a bit, so yeah, I would say because of that, it's not my favorite show in the world,
But
but
there you go. You'll own it. Where is Clancy?
yeah.
For the people who don't know, I only recently learned this myself.
So it's south of the state capital, Helena. It's about 20 minutes south of Helena, so that's, like, the western part, I
Yeah.
would say,
So when I'm
of
heading down
Montana.
to Idaho or just a couple weeks ago
Mhm.
to Utah, I was driving basically right by where you guys are.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, good times. Whipping down the I-15. I'm starting to get to know it a little bit. Cruising through the mountains. Cool.
Yeah.
And so you started riding when you were 6. Um,
Mhm.
where did you start riding? Were you just riding off-road or were you riding motocross or a bit of everything or?
I grew up riding off-road, so my parents were avid dirt bike riders at the time, and they still are. And Tanner and I, so my brother Tanner, who's 17, we started both riding at the same time. So I was 6 and he was, I think, was it 4? Yeah, that we started riding. So
Crazy.
I just grew up riding off-road and it just stuck with me. There's a local series here called 406XC that I just grew up riding and I kind of advanced through all the classes, like the girls overall champion, the C, the B, and then the A. So I raced that for quite a few years, and then I got into the hard enduro stuff.
And how did that come about? Just from the riding you were doing around and
Well, I got noticed by my first sponsor, CSC Enduro, and they were a dirt bike team at the time, and they offered to take my bike down to the Red Bull Override in Texas, which I believe that race isn't going on anymore. But I went down there. I think I just turned 16.
yeah.
I just turned 16 and I went down there and I won the girls' class, and that race was 3 hours in the day and 3 hours at night. So
Oh
it was
well.
kind of a hard race to start out on for your first hard enduro. But I remember it was just an eye opener for sure, and it was a little stressful. Like halfway through, it was almost pitch black, and I didn't have my lights, and my parents did, so I was like riding in the dark a little bit, and it was just,
Oh man.
it was it was definitely a good experience, but I'll always remember it as probably one of the hardest hard enduros I've done because it was the first one. So
A few of those moments where you're maybe regretting some decisions you made.
yes, definitely. When I hear my pipe smash, it's like, oh no. I'm regretting this decision.
Well, that's cool. You went
So
through it, and how'd you finish up in that?
so I won the women's class there,
Well,
so
there you
that
go.
kinda set me off to the hard enduro industry, and I kinda just took off from there with small races and did a couple other hard enduros and then did the series, and yeah.
Yeah. So last year, I mean, it culminates in you last year winning the US Hard Enduro
Mhm.
series. So tell me a little bit about the season. Did you have that goal going in? Did you think it was a possibility or?
Well, I think anything's possible if you work hard enough for it, that's for sure. So I went into the season, I didn't really know how it was gonna go because it was my first year racing all of the hard enduros. So I'd never raced on the East Coast even, so that was an eye opener for sure. But the season went super good. For the most part, I was, I think on the podium for most of the races. So I'm super stoked about that, and obviously there's a few races that were a little difficult. I think my mental game could have been better, but, yeah, it was cool to see the different riding all over the country, for sure. Stuff that I'd never ridden before and how it's all so different it's really unique.
Definitely. And so last year, was that your first year with Sherco USA?
The year before last, they actually recognized me and I got sponsored by them. Um, but last year was a bit more of a sponsorship based on my results from the previous year.
Okay. And so, and did that make a big difference for you? It must have helped for sure.
Yes, it did. And I also, as I was growing, like, I'm not factory, so I had a
Yeah.
lot of other sponsors come about as I started getting more and more into it based off of, the work I was putting into it and yeah, my results. So as I got into it more, Sherco introduced me to some other people and I was able to get a pretty good handful of my own sponsors, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah.
And that's how Sisters Moto came about too.
That's really cool. When you look at
Mhm.
that last year when you're traveling around the country, it's
Yeah.
never cheap for anyone, especially if you're
No.
not on a you're not on a full factory ride, living that
Yep.
factory lifestyle. Um, so what were some of the big challenges? You had the Sherco support, you had support from other
Mhm.
sponsors, but yeah, just the logistics of getting around the country and getting to those races. Were there some real
Mhm.
challenges specifically that you had to overcome, maybe outside of the racing?
Yeah, so I work full time, so I work 40 hours a week,
Yeah.
and I'm also in college part-time for accounting. So having those on the side and then still traveling all over the country, it can be really difficult, especially because, I fund a lot of my own racing. So therefore, I do have to have a pretty consistent job while training on the side. So I think that was my biggest, struggle, was definitely being able to afford going around the country and still doing my college stuff too.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge. That's one thing, I guess, if you're into accounting, you're clearly
Mhm.
going to be a detail oriented person.
Yes.
But yeah, and just like having the discipline to manage education, work, travel, and racing.
Mhm.
Over a season in a very difficult and demanding and expensive sport.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes, especially when I'm gone for a weekend, like, I to make sure I get a lot of work hours in, and then I still have to get in the gym, and then I have to work ahead in my school, so it's like, it can be a bit stressful sometimes, but I guess if you love something enough, you'll do what it takes.
So talk me through that season. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the order of races. I know
Mhm.
it would have started down at King of the Motos.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
last year's season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so it started at Kingdom Motos, yep.
how did that go?
It went really good.
Was that
I would have to say
sorry, I was
I'm
just
sorry,
gonna
what was
say,
that?
was that your first time there?
It was my first time there. Yeah, it was my first time, racing, yeah, that race and that type of terrain, so the rocks are definitely different. They're a bit more crumbly, I'd say, than the rocks in Montana, so the traction and how to find it is very different, and I got 2nd at that race, and I was super stoked about it. That was a really good finish. It was also the first time I'd used a GPS and stuff
I was gonna ask
and
because
really
the
used that.
navigation component of that, how did that go?
Mhm. It went pretty good. It went better than I thought it would go. I was honestly really nervous about it because of my lack of experience, with navigation stuff. But, it went good, and the trail was pretty decent to follow by the time I got there because of
Yeah.
the amount of traffic that already had been on there. So, honestly, I didn't use the GPS as often as I thought I would. But there were a couple times where I had to make sure I was on the right track, so I stopped real quick and looked at it, and I think I got off course a little bit once
Yeah.
because there were a lot of tracks crisscrossing, but other than that, it went pretty smoothly, and I'm happy with my navigation skills
Yeah.
during that race.
How did you like that whole Hammertown experience?
I loved it. I'd been down there, I think I was, yeah, very young. I think about 10 or 11 for King of the Hammers,
Yeah.
and it was super cool experience. So King of the Motos was pretty similar, not as big, but it was still a really cool community and set up a little town down there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this was my first year going to King of the Motos, and I was really excited to see what that was about. And yeah, it was like you said, it's a really cool little community in there. It's different,
Mhm.
it's wild. I mean, I've never been to Burning Man, and I guess people talk about it as like the Burning Man of the off-road world. Um,
Yeah.
almost literally. But yeah, it was really neat. I mean, just a totally different atmosphere. You're leaving at the end of the
Mhm.
day, and the people who are there already for King of the Hammers, they're out ripping around in their vehicles, and it's all the lit
Yeah.
up whips and all that stuff, and you're just like,
Mhm.
wow.
Yep.
And the crowds were great too. I mean, at least this year, like going up Chocolate Thunder off the start, there was piles of people out watching. It was really, really good. It was fun that way.
Yeah, that's super cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it this year,
Yeah.
but I had a little bit of FOMO going on
But it was like probably like that
for
last year
sure.
as well though, right?
Yeah. Well, last year I raced it,
Yeah.
but this year
But
I
lots
wasn't
lots
able
of
to.
lots of crowds last year too.
Yeah, there was quite a few crowds. I wouldn't say it was as many crowds as were on like the East Coast
Yeah.
with like, 'cause that's kind of the East Coast sport is dirt biking and off-road is huge over there. But it definitely there was a big crowd there,
Yeah.
bigger than other races.
And from there you would have headed to, I guess the next big one would have been Grinding Stone probably?
Yep. So that one was a good race. I placed second there,
Yeah.
so I was happy with that.
Again, like such a cool environment, right? And open for spectators. And like you
Oh,
said,
yeah.
so different from what you're riding up in Montana, which is very similar to what we have here in Alberta. I mean, just desert and a
Mhm.
lot of traction in some ways, but in some ways not.
Yeah, no, it was Grinding Stone is definitely a one of a kind unique race. It's not similar to any of the other races based off that cool rock and sand
Yeah.
combination down there. The traction's totally different, the terrain's totally different. It's just its own, I guess, little place. So,
Yeah.
I really like it because of that.
And it's, walking the tracks and watching you guys race it this year, it's so steep there. It's mental.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. The best way to describe it is that everything's rideable, but it is all mental because it takes pure commitment. If you commit, you can ride up any of that stuff, but it looks intimidating based off how
Yeah.
steep it is. It's just the traction and judging the traction, well, the rock with the sand to see how much traction you'll get is probably the most difficult part of it.
Well, and even
But
the coming down too, like trusting the bike, and you're just like, you just got to let that thing go and do its job.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a good race. I'm still stoked with getting second last year on it, but, more excited about this year, of course.
Yeah, well, I
But,
mean, yeah, and we'll come to that. But I mean, at this point in
mhm,
the season last year, talking about a championship season, were you starting to,
mhm,
that confidence must have been really building, and you were starting to think like, okay, like,
mhm.
definitely you belong, no question.
Yeah. No, the switch had definitely been flipped from where, like, I could have a chance at this in the future to, like, okay, my time is, like, now if I work hard enough.
Yeah,
So, that was cool.
and again, that flip switching to go east to where you hadn't raced before. I
Mhm.
mean, that must have been huge as well, just in the short term there.
Oh, yeah, it was, like I'd have to say I had a little bit harder time on the East Coast than I did on the West Coast just based off of what I've grown up riding,
Yeah,
and it was definitely mind-blowing to see the
yeah.
different terrain over there with the humidity, it was
Oh,
awful.
I was about to say, like,
So
throw in that East Coast humidity and, like,
oh my gosh,
you know,
it was bad.
I mean, something like,
Mhm.
TKO, I mean, that must have been cool. Was that your first FIM event?
Yes, it was my first FIM event, so, that was a unique race. I wouldn't say that it was as technical as some of the other races,
Yeah.
but the humidity is what made it so excruciatingly hard. Like, it was just hard to breathe, like, and I as a person, like, I don't sweat a lot, but when I was there, I was, like, drenched. Like, it was bad.
I mean, it's so dry over
So
here where we live, and, like, I'm from the East
mhm.
Coast, and, I go back and, I went back in August for a week for the, for amateur grand nationals, like our version of Loretta Lynn's, and
Oh, yeah.
and it wasn't even terrible, but I was just like, oh my god, it's so
Yeah,
gross.
it is. You just feel so gross all day. It's
Yeah,
like, I don't like it.
yeah, it's like I could have 18 showers today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, but something like, and going to TKO, I mean, that must have been neat too. Like, did you get to meet some of the big names from Europe that came over? And,
I
you know,
did. I met Sandra Gomez, and that's pretty cool.
that's very cool.
Yep. So I think the qualifying day I got well, Tough Like Roar, I believe.
Yeah.
She was there and I stood on the podium with her and that was pretty cool
That was sick.
to have
Yeah.
a podium picture with her.
Yeah.
But
Did you get to spend a little
yeah.
time with her?
I did. I wasn't able to talk to her a lot because I guess there were always people talking to her, so I
Yeah.
wasn't able to really butt in there, but I did get to talk to her a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
And did she give you any advice or anything that stuck with you, or just it was cool to just meet her?
It was just cool to meet her. It was
Yeah.
just kinda some light-minded just conversation, nothing too in-depth, so it's just kinda brief, but definitely, I'll definitely remember that for a while
What?
until I see her again.
Yeah. Was she digging it over in the States for that?
Um, I think she really enjoyed it. She doesn't really get to come over here as often
Yeah.
because I believe Alfredo comes over here quite a bit, but she does not.
Hmm.
She doesn't really have that opportunity arise very often,
Yeah.
but she really likes it when she comes over here.
Oh, very cool. Um,
Mhm.
so you go through the season, you come out of you come out at the end, you're champion, and what did that mean to you? Like, I mean, beyond like awesome, amazing, but I guess
Yeah.
on a personal level, on a professional level, what did that do for you
Mhm.
and mean to you?
It meant the world to me because ever since I was little, I remember when I don't know, super young, maybe like 8 or something, I wanted to be a professional dirt biker. Like, I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I wanted it, it was
Yeah, yeah,
just something that came to mind and, stuck with me, and so to win the championship was, like, literally a dream come true, and it took a little bit to just fully grasp what I did,
yeah,
and I'm young too, so that made it even better. So, just to see the potential that I have now, it
yeah.
was definitely a confidence booster, and I definitely will treasure that feeling, that championship feeling forever, so
Yeah, and I mean, on the professional level too, I mean, it's huge to
mhm.
have that on your resume, especially like as you said, you're a young racer, and to say like, national hard enduro champion.
Yes, so from that, I definitely got quite a few new sponsors, so that really helps with just overall cost of racing, period, so I can do more races and, it was huge for me. It
Yeah.
was huge in both my professional and my personal life.
But I mean, and we talked with Brandon Petrie a little bit about this the last episode, actually, about, the whole privateer
Mhm.
pro lifestyle, and, the
Yeah.
cost, and, what it, just like how much effort you have to put into it. And, like you were saying earlier
Mhm.
about trying to balance your life and all these things. Um, just every little bit of help from the sponsors and winning that. I mean, it's probably just
Mhm.
like things that most people be like, oh, that doesn't seem like a lot that you got from sponsor,
Yeah.
the Acme Corp or whatever. But as a
Mhm.
privateer pro, like all those things add up massively, I'm sure.
Definitely. Yes. So just like levers, like I run Off Grid Syndicate, I was able to get their sponsorship not last year, but the year before. Like just those every little thing adds up, and it's huge for me. I know Seat Concepts has been great to me too. Just all like Astro Off Road for my bars, SXS for my skid plate and my hand guards, and P3 too. And as you do better, your sponsorship gets better,
Yeah.
so which ultimately saves you a lot more money. So it just everything adds up, and it's huge as a privateer.
Yeah, huge. And especially as someone who's riding at the front end of the women's sport, even just like,
Mhm.
having the ability where you're not like, well, I'm gonna have to van life this race. Like, okay, I can get a hotel, I can get
Yeah,
an Airbnb, and like have a place to
exactly.
go.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, all that definitely adds up for sure.
So then you rolled into Endurocross. Tell me a little bit about your history in Endurocross. Like obviously you killed it last year. Had you raced the previous season, or what is your history in that niche of the sport?
Last year was my was it my it was my second year doing it.
Yeah.
So my second year doing it, and it was definitely went way better than I thought. It's still very new to me because I've not done a lot of, well, moto racing, so all the jumping is, like, very intimidating, but the hard enduro stuff is definitely familiar.
Yeah.
So, it's just a good combo of technical and some fast stuff mixed in there. It's super unique, and I really like it. It's different, and it's honestly my favorite type of racing, I'd have to say.
Yeah. I mean, you looked really good out there. And I guess this is something that, we've talked about with people before too, is like you said, you don't really have a moto background, but now that, you've had
Mhm.
this success in endurocross, it's like, your favorite format to race. Is moto something you're going to work harder on this year in training to build up that speed and that confidence in the air?
Yes, for sure. That's my goal, actually. I am really bad with jumping. I'm actually terrified to jump, and it's quite pathetic and embarrassing. But, this year, it's my goal to get better at jumping, to get better at cornering and speeds. Like, that's where I really lose time in hard enduro and
Yeah.
just any race in general are those sections. So I need to get better with that, and I'm gonna train a lot for that this year.
Yeah. And yeah, like talking to Brandon last year and then again this year, that was something he's like, if you go back and listen to that episode, he's like, I don't really train
Mhm.
hard enduro anymore. He's like, I ride trials or I ride moto now because he's like, I need that
Yeah.
speed. And I know from,
Mhm.
as I become more experienced with, covering hard enduro and enduro cross, you can see in the hard enduro side what a difference it makes at the
Mhm.
front of the races. The guys, the Tristans, the
Oh,
Codys, the
yes.
Wills, the riders, like, that top like
Mhm.
five guys, the way they just don't really ever stop. Like they don't roll up to an
Mhm.
obstacle, stop and assess. Like they're just
Exactly.
gone. And at Grinding Stone, again, like it's such a, for me, Outliers and Grinding Stone, super great
Mhm.
races to watch as a spectator. And you really see that difference. And what,
Yep.
and you don't think about how much speed matters in something like hard enduro
Mhm.
or enduro cross. But I mean, enduro cross, the speed and progression in the sport, it's just it's just
Mhm.
motocross or arena cross, but a few different obstacles.
Exactly, and yeah, that's you pretty much hit the bullseye there with everything you're saying because hard enduro does take a lot of speed, like, just getting going up to obstacles and not assessing, but just full on confidence right away, just all that comes from speed and just that clutch and throttle control and weight and everything. So I think if I were to get quite a bit faster and more comfortable going faster, it would definitely improve my riding a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
And even this season, just seeing the first two premiere rounds with King of the Motos and Grinding Stone, again, different
mhm.
format races with those huge long desert transition pieces in the
Yeah.
courses. But the way, it's like a pack of five guys like riding hard at the front together
Mhm.
for like long durations. Maybe less so
Yeah.
in the final race of Grinding Stone because that's where they eliminated all that stuff, those big transitions, and made it
Mhm.
pure, almost pure hard enduro. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's crazy watching the sport do that and watching, Erzberg last year and, the way these guys race with
Yeah,
speed and mindset is just insane.
it is. It's I definitely admire that for sure because this year at Grinding Stone, I actually got very pissed off at myself as I was going through the sand because 'cause I'm just like, "I cannot ride this." Like, I'm not going fast. I don't have I don't have the best mindset for this type of, like, sand,
Yeah.
like, I just didn't know how to combine speed and technical while going through that, and it was making me very frustrated.
Yeah. It's like that, it's almost like you need to go race some hare and hounds or things like that to get
Mhm.
that comfort level, right?
Yeah, for sure, and that's what I'm gonna do this year, and that's kinda why I backed off with some hard enduros this year is because 'cause I'm gonna go do some faster races, so there's a local XC series here that I wanted to hit on for some faster stuff, and then
Is that
maybe
the
travel a little
40?
bit to some.
Oh,
Yep, that's the 40660.
I have to talk to you outside of this and learn a little bit more about that. I'd love to come and check that out. And you got to, like, I
Yeah,
think I
it's
said this
super
to you
cool.
at Grinding Stone, like, you should come up and check out Jared and Courtney's series. Like, if you want some speed, some sprint enduro, like,
Yes,
it's not
I
far.
need. I really do want to do that.
First rounds in 2 weekends in Pincher Creek, Alberta. So southern Alberta, not so far from Clancy.
Oh, that's true. I need to.
You
That would
should,
be awesome,
you,
actually.
you should come. Like, I'll put you in touch with those guys, but something to consider. I think it'd be, you'd have a hoot, and there is cash.
Yes.
So, hey,
Yeah, that would be
I was
awesome.
joking with those guys. I was like, if Hallie comes, you should give her start money. Oh, I said that if Rachel Gutish was talking about coming maybe at one point, but now she's in Europe.
Um,
And I was saying the same thing. I was like,
yeah.
you got to give Rachel start money. Get her to come.
Yeah, I would love. Yeah, I would love to make it up there if I can.
Yeah,
So that'd be
there's some good
awesome. I've
ones.
heard a lot
Yeah,
good things.
yeah. They
Mm-hmm.
run. I think this year it's 4 sprint rounds and 2 cross country rounds. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's super cool.
Um.
Yes.
So what are those? I mean, so there's the 406 cross country series you're talking about. Are you looking at any of the other bigger series for that kind of stuff?
I know some people who race like the hare
Oh,
scrambles, the Western hare scrambles, so I'm thinking about maybe doing a couple of those too. But not sure whenever they fit into my hectic schedule.
might have just lost Hallie. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm gonna message you, and there's a chat function in case you can hear me. Hello.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Weird. It got disconnected for a second.
You know what? This happens like every time we do this. Like something happens, and it's like, okay, we'll figure it out. Oh man, brutal. So yeah, I was just asking. So you're going to do the 406 series, and what were some of the other series you were looking at to work on that speed cross country kind
Well,
of
I was
riding?
looking into the West Hare Scrambles because I know quite a few people that race those, so I think that'd be fun, and they've been kind of trying to get
Right
me
on.
down there. So I'm gonna maybe try one or two of those out if they fit into my hectic schedule, and just see. It's so hard to fit other races into it when I'm, like I said, working full time and college and everything. So, but I definitely want to try to
trying to
fit
make it happen.
1 or 2 in. So,
that'd be awesome. And with that, I mean, so with Endurocross and, you're working on the speed, is something like, could you ever see yourself getting excited about something like ISDE or trying to work towards that? Or
I've thought about ISDE. It'd be really cool. I don't know if it's like at the top of my bucket list, but I think that if I was to make it into the ISDE, I would definitely go. Like I wouldn't pass up the opportunity. So,
but right now it's just not where your focus is.
yeah, it's not really where my focus is at the moment, but like I said, if I did have the opportunity and I did make it into the ISDE, like I couldn't find it in myself to say no. So,
yeah, that'd be a great experience.
oh, for sure.
I'm going to go with the Canadian team this year to Spain, and
oh, really?
Super excited about that. Yeah, to go and cover that and
that'll be cool.
Be embedded. Yeah, very, very excited about that. I mean, the Canadian team versus the American team, like it's a whole different style of organization. Like we just don't have the funding like the US has, but it's really, it's like privateer ISD. So
yeah.
So that'll be fun. So going back to Endurocross. So, you came into the season. How are you feeling coming into the 23 season?
I felt good. Definitely felt confident because of my last season, so you go in feeling a lot more confident with the championship under your belt. But I knew where I struggled, and I knew what I could improve on based off of all my experience last year. So just going into it with a more, confident and stronger mindset, and just have more work ethic and to work a little bit harder at it. So Yeah.
Did you have any specific goals coming into the season?
Well, one of them, like you said, was to get faster. That was my biggest goal. Another one was I need to definitely get stronger. So it can be difficult in hard enduros, especially for a woman to, I
Yeah.
dropped my bike 4 times and my energy's gone. So
Yeah.
I literally cannot afford to do that in a race, like at all, and it
I forget where it
happens,
was.
but
Yeah, I forget if it was Idaho Falls or Redmond. And I remember there was like a long rock garden. Maybe it was Oregon, Redmond.
mhm.
And there was a real long rock section. And a few times, I think in like, practice and
Yeah.
qualifying, you dropped your bike in there. And I remember you just
Oh,
like kind of looking at it and sort of like, I could see you take that big mental like
yeah.
moment and pick it up, and I was like, come on. And then you just
Yeah.
took off again. I was like, okay, that was like kind of a moment there that I
Yeah.
could see. And it was funny because I think Rachel went down like right away too. And you guys were both there. And, it was
Uh-huh.
funny. I was like, oh God, this is brutal.
Yeah, it's definitely brutal when your competition's, like, right there. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
then after you pick it up, you're just tired from picking it up, so your riding will not be as strong as it was 10 seconds ago, like,
Yeah. I
so
mean, you're already probably maxed out on heart rate.
yeah,
And
and for me, when I pick up my bike right after, like, it takes a solid maybe, uh, I don't know, 30 seconds for me to get a lot of my energy back after that. So an
yeah.
Endurocross is definitely difficult when you crash because then you have to just keep hitting obstacles one right after the other.
Yeah, and
It's
losing rhythm in endurocross has just got to be, I mean, mentally so hard and like you said,
Mhm.
physically really tough.
It is. It definitely is. Endurocross is one of those things where you wanna be super precise and you wanna pace yourself because you
Yeah,
can't afford to push too hard and then, like you said, crash and your energy's gone, so
yeah, you really need to flow in there. I mean,
mhm.
that's kind of what I take away from watching you guys do that.
Yes, for sure.
Um, so the first couple rounds, you were in Everett,
Mhm.
Washington, and then you were down to Prescott, Arizona. How did that go for you?
They both went really good. Honestly, they all kinda, like, um, they all kinda smushed together at the end, so it's kinda hard to
Yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah,
which one is which, but honestly, they both went good. My whole Endurocross season went pretty well. I believe it was it one of my last races where Rachel and I were, like, head and head, like,
yeah,
it was
yep,
it was intense, but other than that, I battled with Rachel quite a bit this last
yep,
season, so it would depend on the course, honestly, as if it was more technical or if it had faster because she's really good in this faster, so I have to make up with it in the technical. And
yeah.
then Melissa too was definitely a tough competitor. So
Well, it's funny because that's what I kind of remember too is,
mhm,
because I went to the rounds after the first two and watching the first two on TV, it was like if you weren't battling Rachel, you were
mhm,
battling Melissa. Like
yeah.
you were always battling someone, it looked like.
Oh, yeah. It was super close between the top 3. So, my last race,
Yeah.
I was happy with how I finished, but at the same time, I was disappointed because that determined my 3rd place overall instead of my 2nd. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of a happy, sad day, but
Yeah.
it was definitely close. You were always going 100% because there were those, yeah, Rachel and there was Melissa. So we were all really close and good battles for sure.
Definitely. And it was amazing to watch. Like you guys, the women's races were awesome. I really enjoyed it. And seeing and sorry, I don't want this to sound trite or anything, but
Mhm,
like seeing the level of competitiveness that you guys had out there. I
mhm.
mean, I wouldn't expect anything less,
Yeah.
but I find in moto in all aspects of sport, women are a little underrepresented media wise.
Oh, for sure.
And
Mhm,
then in the moto world, I think it's, inflated. And in the off-road world, I mean, there's less media,
mhm.
there's less
There
coverage,
is.
and you guys kind of, it's tough to get seen. And,
Mhm.
but I loved coming down there and seeing how you guys were like putting it out there
Well, I
and just
really appreciate that.
going for it. Yeah, it was sick. And it was also cool too. I mean, it must have been, I mean, you Shelby didn't race last year
Mm-hmm.
with her surgery, but I did notice, like, at the rounds I was at personally, like during the track walks and all that, she was down there, and like I remember you and her talking quite a bit and like looking
Mm-hmm.
at tracks, and was that did you learn some stuff from Shelby this year?
I did, yes. So I think one of the biggest things was just to stay consistent. And yeah, that was probably biggest thing. Stay consistent and pick good lines and jump if I can. So
Yeah,
she's
yeah. Get
definitely
in
a
the air.
jumper and is really good at that stuff. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah, I mean, and there's someone too she's so fast from racing
hmm
GNCC and National Enduro and all that stuff.
yes, for sure.
So
She's a
I
really
think she
good role
just picked up a
model.
silver. Yeah, just picked up a silver medal this weekend, I think, at NEGP. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm stoked for her about
yeah,
that.
yeah, we were all excited here in Canada, definitely when she won her first GNCC too. That was awesome.
Yeah, no, that was super exciting. I was happy for her. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah,
So
and that's what we were like sort of saying, like, wow, like,
that's
it was a
awesome.
good moment for us.
Yeah.
Um, so when you talk about mindset, across in the sport, and you're
hmm
saying endurocross, you're looking to be very precise. You're looking to keep your flow. I mean, similar to hard enduro, I would assume, but do you find that, like, do you have a different mental approach to endurocross versus hard enduro?
Not super distinct, I guess. There's not a distinct difference that I can really name off the top of my head. I'd say that it's just different type of riding, so you just have to pace yourself differently within the races. So for hard
Mhm.
enduro, I think my mindset is to not get flustered and to pick good lines and to be super to ha- s- to commit 100% to it. I think that's
Yeah.
my main mindset for that and to stay calm. And also drink water because sometimes I forget to do that. And then
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm the worst for that.
Yeah, and then for Endurocross, it's more of the, yeah, consistency and then pace yourself, really, really pace yourself. Don't go out and just as fast as you can, like, you just really wanna make sure that you pace yourself so your heart rate isn't up and then it just drops. So,
Yeah.
that's important and yeah, just kind of the same thing, have a good mindset, don't get flustered and stay calm, so
Do you maybe in endurocross, do you like maybe focus more on segmenting the course up in your mind? Like, okay, like I've got this feature, then, just I'm trying to go fast for the next 20 yards or whatever
Mhm.
over this feature. And then I'm going to go fast. Then how do I go as fast as I can the next 20 yards? Whereas hard enduro is more like you say that it's more of that commitment game.
Mhm. So for Endurocross, I'd have to say I really focus. Like when you go out and practice, you can see what sections are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. So
Yeah.
when those are the sections that I really focus on when I'm out there. The other ones, like in practice, I'll go over them a couple times, but then I'll hit the ones that I have a hard time on over and over and over again, just until I get that flow and I can, because I know that there's some sections every single race in Endurocross where I can make or break my race. And I know where, I usually know those sections right after practice.
Yeah.
So those are
It's like tire mountains.
yes, tires I have definitely been struggling with. I don't know what it is about them. They're difficult. So
Yeah.
I definitely have to focus on those when after practice and during the race too. I have to be committed when those obstacles come up, and that's probably my first thing that comes into mind is just commitment. You got to be committed to them and not be nervous. So.
Have you always had like a lot of mental strength in competition? Like, are you a naturally competitive person, I guess?
Yes, I'm very naturally competitive. So when it comes to racing, yeah, I'm very competitive and I would say that my mental game is pretty good when I'm racing.
Yeah. And is that something like you actually do you take time to work on the mental game, or is it you're more focused on the physical and the
I have to
and
say
you just got a natural mental game?
I would say it's kind of maybe a little more natural to put it, and then I work more
Yeah.
on my physical side, like because I know that that's probably where I will make or break it in a race is my just how strong I am. So that's what I truly work on the most.
Yeah, it's interesting for me to meet people like you because back in my mountain bike and road racing days, for me, like I was physically strong and I
Mhm.
had, huge aerobic capacity and all these things, but my mental game was just terrible, like
Oh.
just
Mhm.
atrocious. And, like, yeah, it's always been a struggle for me. And to meet people who are naturally able to just like tamp that in and get that appropriate level of lock. And, it's just fascinating for me. Like I spent years thinking like I got to
Mhm.
jack myself up for races, and then I'd be like, why am I so like flustered in races all the time? And
Yeah.
right around the time I finished up racing, I was like, I should just chill out more. I'd like just listen to some like really cool like just trancey music,
Mhm.
and just like go really inward instead of just being trying to extrovert and get
Yeah.
jammed up. And I was like, oh shit, like I'm way faster.
Yeah.
Damn
Being
it.
being calm is probably one of the most important things while racing for anyone, I think. It's just staying
Yeah.
calm.
Well, it's funny, and I'll send you these pictures, or I'll put them up on the gram this week. But
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of pictures of you, and like the ones of you with your new bike. That was sick, and we'll talk about that
All right.
because I do want to like shout out Sisters Moto for that. But whenever I get pictures of you at races, like behind the scenes,
Mhm.
you're one of those people like you're smiling like 99.9% of the time. You're just like you look like you're happy to be there. You're having a
Mhm.
good time, and you never look like even if you are like feeling a little like you know, jammed up on the inside. Like I've never really seen that in you, like on a start line in Endurocross or,
Mhm.
walking around in the pits at Endurocross or hard enduro.
Yeah, I try to I would have to say Destry Abbott is probably my biggest hero and role model for me, so seeing him and seeing how he is, like, I want to be that type of person. So I
Yeah.
always try to be as happy as I can, and honestly, I don't wanna take the race too seriously to where I lose myself before the race, Like, I wanna be
Yeah. Yeah.
that person who can, smile at everyone and be nice to the kids and that person that people know as being happy and so
Approachable.
exactly. I definitely look up to Destry, so seeing him, I just really I wanna be that way, and, um, yeah, it just really helps me with my racing too. It helps me stay
Yeah.
calm, and it helps me just, if you focus on it too hard, then that's usually when you overthink. So then I'm bad at overthinking, so stay I have to stay positive and keep my mind,
Yeah.
busy, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, it's like you said at the beginning, like, yeah, I can get up this thing. If I just commit to it, I'm going to get up this. Like,
Mhm.
I've got the equipment, I've got the skills, trust.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny, and I can see where you also get that from your family. Like, I don't know your family that well, but your mom is one of the happiest people I've ever
Aw.
met. Your dad's always stoked to be there.
Mhm.
Tanner looks like a super cool, like happy kid.
He is, yep.
And when I see you guys rolling around at races, it's like, oh, there's the Markses, like
That's
there they
awesome.
are.
Yeah,
They're
we're all
happy.
really close and get along super well.
Yeah.
It's a family sport, so it's our
Yeah.
it's our favorite.
That's awesome. So you finish up third overall in Endurocross. You had a great season there.
Mhm.
And when did things start happening behind the scenes with Sisters Moto?
Sister's Moto came into the picture this year, the beginning of this year. So it was it came on pretty fast, and they offered to have a race bike for me and pretty much come to the races with it. So it was an offer that I couldn't refuse, and I was super stoked to be a part of the team. They're very nice people and are extremely supportive. So, of course, I said yes, and here we are.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Sisters Moto is located in Sisters, Oregon,
Mhm.
which is just a little bit west of Redmond. And I've only been there once. So at the Redmond Endurocross round last year, they had a little party, and you were sitting there at the table doing signing stuff for the fans.
Yeah.
And that was the one where you had those signs, like with the fan signs with your face for people to take
Yes.
away. And
It was cool.
that was, I remember seeing that. I just remembered that right now. And that
Mhm.
was really cool. And then seeing a few of them in the arena the next
Yeah,
night.
I loved
That
that.
was super dope. And people
Mhm.
coming up to the signing to the pit party with them.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, that shop. And it's funny, I was messaging with them when I put up the pictures I took of your bike because the bike looks so good.
Oh,
And
I
they were saying,
know.
like, they're saying like, we're so stoked. Thank you. And I was like, yeah, like, no, you guys are awesome. And
Mhm.
like, I'm a lover of shop culture. like whether it was in the mountain bike world or it's in the, the moto world. And I said, one of the things I said to them was like, just going there that night and seeing like the effort they went to
Mm-hmm.
and the way that shop is set up and the way they operate, like really nice people, really into the sport. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't sense any pretentiousness, and I'd see their big rig, earth roamer rig at some of the races.
Yeah,
And,
super cool.
super cool. I was like, where was that in Arizona there? Come on.
I know.
Looking forward to seeing that at some races for sure. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I love shop culture. Like, they seem like a really cool shop.
Mm-hmm.
So, they reached out to you in January, or did you have a sense maybe they were interested, or?
No, it was just out of the blue. It was definitely a blessing for sure. They reached out, I think, the end of December, and we started talking about that, and super exciting. Like, just dream come true again. So,
Yeah.
I took them up on that, and it's been great so far. I'm so excited for this season and to work with them. So,
Yeah. I mean, and this is something that I always ask too. Like, so you've got a race mechanic now.
I do.
That's
Yes.
not you, not your dad, or
Oh my
any, or
gosh.
Tanner or whatever. And like, was that a little weird for you? Your first race there?
It was a little weird. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
used to that type of luxury, I guess. So
Yeah.
it was definitely new, and I loved it. Parker did a great job setting up my bike. He super nice, and he set it up how I wanted it, and it ran really good, super good,
Yeah.
and didn't have any problems with it. So I'm really, really happy with how it went, and I'm really happy to have him as my mechanic too.
So we're recording this on a Sunday night, April
Mhm.
7th. Hopefully this is actually going to drop tomorrow on Monday.
Mhm.
But they did put up on Thursday, I think. I know it's Ben Moore was there filming for
Mhm.
Sisters Moto, and they dropped their YouTube video from the race. And it was so fun, like how excited they were about the bike, how
Mm.
excited you were. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh man. And like talking to the Sherco guys, like they were excited. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people were really into that bike. Like, and the photos just didn't do it justice. Like I couldn't get
Mm-mm.
the way, like, the bass boat sparkle and the paint, and
Yeah.
it was so sick.
They did an amazing job, and the best part about it is they didn't tell me anything about what they were gonna do for graphics-wise, which
Yeah.
naturally it makes me a little nervous because I'm the type of person who likes a really simple, like, look that stands out though, and I like the darker colors
Yeah.
kind of, so, so naturally I was a little nervous, but then when I saw it, it
Had
was
they
just
asked you for
awesome.
that kind of input ahead of time, or were they like, how do you like your bike to look? Or
They kinda asked me how I liked it to look, like what colors I liked, and
yeah,
I'm just like,
yeah,
not a huge fan of pink and purple, but if it's a little bit
yeah,
mixed with darker colors, it looks good. So I just give them
yeah,
hints like that, and yeah, it was awesome. I loved the white too with the black. It
yeah,
all
yeah,
mixed in so good,
yeah.
and
Like the
it
front end, the fork shrouds and all that, like
yeah,
it looks so good.
and
Yeah,
they also put a little Montana with the Clancy
yeah,
sign
Clancy on
in
it,
it. I loved that. It was so
and the
special to
latitude,
me.
longitude of
Yeah,
Clancy as
and
well.
it's a
Like
silver
that was
state,
cool.
so they put the silver
Yeah,
stars on it. Like that was so cool. I absolutely loved that.
it was funny. It was almost like those old, like, Pimp My Ride or Orange County Choppers, where it was like, here's this vehicle or this bike that's like totally like this is you, this is your story on, it's like a tattoo, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. It was very
yeah,
special to see and special to me. So
yeah. So
just
then
yeah.
and then you take it out and you're on the
Mhm.
practice track, and I missed this, but I talked to people who saw it, and then I saw the video of it,
Oh boy.
and you biffed hard. Like, now that I've seen the
Oh,
video, like, to describe it to people, you were riding up, one of these classic grinding stone walls, and you just kind of took a right turn to come back down in through like a little
just a
crevasse or something,
yeah, crevice.
just a line down,
Mm-hmm.
and you just somehow biffed it, and like you came off the front and like just kind of full body, like belly flopped onto the
Oh,
rock.
it was painful.
Like, oh my God. Yeah. Like when I saw it, I was like, like I heard people talking about it. Zach O, photographer, Canadian photographer from Revelstoke. Shout out to Zach. He was like, "Oh man, like that looked harsh." I was like, "Is she okay?" He's like, "She looked okay, but I was like, but it was funny because everyone when they heard about it was like, "How's the bike?"
Oh, I know.
Because the bike looks so good.
I was so nervous, especially for grinding stone to have a fresh bike that and then crash that hard right off the bat. I was like, I was more worried about my bike than myself. Like, no, it was just a stupid mistake. I saw my dad go up and do it, and I knew I didn't have the commitment for it, but he made it look really easy. So then I was just like, oh, I got this.
I could do that.
And then halfway up, there's just like this hole, and you have to go up and around it. Like on the sidewall there, really high to get around it. And I was probably 6 feet up at the highest point, and I looked down, of course, because that shit's scary.
And that's you immediately went there.
I immediately just went where I looked, and that was straight down. So I fell
fatal
6 feet from the sidewall into the hole, and I just whacked my head and instant headache. And then I knocked the wind out of myself. It took me
no doubt.
It took me a few minutes. But I got up, and the first thing my dad said is, we got to keep riding because you can't end your ride on a bad note. So
I mean, but that was it. Like even the practice area there across the highway from the course was no joke. Like there was some again, you keep saying the word and it's true. It's like there was some commitment over there.
Yes.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Good place to practice. Also could be a bad place to practice based off that.
Yeah.
But it was good.
But that was like, was that your first big one of the season? Or relatively big one of the season?
It was my first
and is it one of those
race.
And first big crash?
Yeah, it was the first big crash of the season. I guess I'm getting it out of the way early.
Yeah, is it kind of like, how they say in football, you're nervous until you get hit or hockey or whatever. You're nervous until you get hit the first time.
I always
and then it's
say
like,
that.
okay.
I always say that to make me feel better, so hopefully that's the case.
maybe that's where that comes from, just to make ourselves feel better. Maybe it's not real.
Yeah, I hope it's real.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, now you got that one out of the way, you're okay.
Yeah, right.
I just got smoked by that too. But okay, that makes it okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, from your perspective, I mean, it was a good weekend. I know that, I was sitting there actually, like as the first few waves went off of the start, I was up at the top of that first climb of the first start hill on day one or race one. And then I came down for your start because I wanted to get some shots of you coming off the line and with the bike and everything. And I remember like it was like they were like, go. And the other ladies went, and it was like this delayed reaction from you. And I was like, what happened?
Oh, yeah, the start was, I had a rough start. It was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized that I don't know how to ride sand. And it made me really mad. So.
And that sand there was deep. Like the starting loop, that was some impressively deep sand.
That was. And for someone who doesn't have that in their backyard to practice, like it was definitely difficult. And having a bad start is really hard on your mental mind game because at first day I was just playing catch up the entire time because it was just rough to, instantly be off to a bad start. Like it's just hard to recover from that. So it took quite a while to get in a good mindset again and keep moving. But
well, and tactically as well, it's tough because there must have been like 4 or 5 waves that went off ahead of you guys. And, you biff the start a little bit. And if your competition gets through the first few obstacles or somehow gets around the first bottleneck or two, because those bottlenecks were there probably from the first from the first mesa, you were probably running into bottlenecks.
Oh, yeah. They got definitely worse when I did not make a section very well and I was stuck in there for a very long time. So that was annoying. And then as I got stuck, more people kept rolling up and being stupid and not giving the other person time, just getting stuck, So I was there for probably a solid 30 minutes, maybe 40. That was rough.
That's so tough, right? And you see the people there and they're like, everyone's getting frustrated and it's tough for everyone to get out of like that that race or like, you know, the mindset of like, I
Oh,
gotta
for
go,
sure. Mm-hmm.
to like just stop, everyone take a breath. And if, you know, you help me, I help you,
Mm-hmm.
then you help the next person.
Exactly.
And just that whole like, we're in this together. People lose that, you know.
Oh, they definitely do.
It's kind of like hard enduro is sometimes, you know, and I saw that at Grinding Zone, it feels like it's like that, you know, everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, literally in Grinding Zone, like we're all playing in sandbox.
Yep.
Like you help me with my toy.
Exactly.
It's such a cooperative effort, like, you know, when it needs to be. Even at the front of the race, you look at like Billy and Manny last year in some of those races and helping each other. And, you know, it's nuts.
It is.
It's one of the cool things of the sport.
Yeah.
So what is so you got the first big one out of the way. I know when we talked, you said you were not going east for hard enduro this year. Is that, you know, are you a little sad about that, or are you just like, no, I just can't make it work this year? Like it's,
Well, for one, it's
you know,
super expensive. Like I said, I work full time, so I can't really afford to be away that long. So it's kind of just out of the question regardless. And it was a good experience for sure, but yeah, based off work and everything, there's no way I could do that this year.
Yeah.
But
so then, you know, you said maybe that's going to allow you to focus in more on the Endurocross season.
yes, for sure. I'm going to be doing Moab this upcoming weekend and then Donner in California. So, and then Endurocross.
I've never, I really, you know, I would have loved to have got down to Moab, but I was like, I can't go to everything.
Oh, shoot.
It's just like you, right?
Yeah,
you know,
I get
you're just like, I want to go to it all, but yeah, it gets
Mhm.
expensive and,
It does.
you know, Donner, I really want to go to, but I might have a commitment up here in Canada. It's going to take priority. Are you going to do Silver Kings?
I will not be at that one this year.
No.
So,
Yeah. I was just wondering maybe because it's kind of in the backyard, but I mean, again, it's a big commitment in a huge race. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately I can't make it that race this year, so.
Yeah. So then going into Endurocross, it's going to be a good year. I mean, it looks like it's going to be full on this year. Shelby, you know, will be back. I mean, it's going to be interesting because she's on the Canadian ISDE team. Rachel presumably will be on the US ISDE team. There's 2 rounds. The first 2 rounds overlap. I haven't heard. I'm assuming that since Shelby, I haven't talked to her yet about it, but I'm assuming that since she said she's going to ISDE, that's because Endurocross said they do 2 drops for the women, but I don't know yet. I don't know if you've heard anything about that or.
I have not. No, as of now, I've heard that they aren't doing that. So.
Interesting.
Which is very interesting, and I'm disappointed about that. But
it's tough, right? You know, and I get where they're coming from. You know, as a promoter, you're like, you know, got to make dates work with arenas, venues, and all that. But it's tough when it's a national series that's being scheduled over top of, you know, one of the biggest events in the off-road world.
And it's the only event that actually is scheduled that overlaps the ISDE. So that's just a little disappointing because I know another friend of mine is also racing the ISDE and she's disappointed as well because he has to miss the first few rounds. So.
Oh, okay. Who's that?
Jaden Donners. So,
oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that is too bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, yeah, and I'm disappointed too. Like, I'm gonna miss the first 4 rounds because I'm anticipating getting back like the Tuesday, the week of the doubleheader in Idaho Falls, and there's just, you know, I it's just gonna be tough. Like, you know, I'm like for anyone to go away for 2 weeks, you know, there's,
for sure.
you know, you're getting a lot of backing from home, and it's like, you know, I got to be there on the home front too.
Yeah.
So, you know, unfortunately, those first 4 rounds I'm gonna have to cover remotely, which is fine. But you know, I wish I could be there more, and then I'll try and get to the last couple rounds.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sad. I would have loved to have seen you guys battling it out, like every round. That would have been sick. That would have been a highlight.
Yeah. No, I completely understand where you're coming from, though.
Yeah, though it's, you know, it's just like everybody, both sides of it, racing media. You know, you got commitments, and you're trying to make it work for everyone. But yeah, like like you, I'm such a fan of Endurocross. That's a really good series. There were some bumps last year, I think, but overall, I think they handled it pretty
They
well.
did.
They listened and they reacted to what they were hearing. And kudos to them for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. They did a really good job, and
Yeah.
I'm really happy with how it went last year.
Yeah. And I can see as organizers, they're really they are trying to make it better.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
And, it was good. So you're going to focus in on Endurocross. You're going to race a little cross country. What else you got up your sleeve for this year?
That's pretty much it. I want to just ride for fun with friends, and
Yeah.
I want to have a little more free time. There's other things I like to do. Like I love riding my horse, and
I was going to say, yeah, I've seen lots of your posts about that. And
yep. So I love being on the ranch doing stuff. So I also want to make time for my other things and hobbies that I like doing in my life. So
is it a working ranch?
it is, yes. So
What do you guys do?
we do hay. So
Yeah.
that's our main thing that we do. We don't do cattle anymore, but we do pasture other people's cattle. So
Oh, yeah.
yep. So it's definitely still a
Good.
working ranch. But
Yeah. So you haven't convinced anyone to build like a big, huge track in there yet?
we have trails all over the place.
Yeah.
But most of the times when
But you
I go
need,
riding, I just boondock and kind of do my own thing.
yeah. Yeah. It's like you need to build a flat track in there to really work on that speed.
Yes, that's a possibility. There's also a track in Helena. It's not the best
Oh,
track,
okay.
but
Yeah.
there's still a pretty decent one here that I can just go at and have
Right
some
on.
fun at.
Excellent. Are you going to just go be a fan at any of the outdoors or anything like that?
Probably
Was
not.
Shugel's not too far away?
It's not too far away. I'm tempted, but I don't know for sure. When I have an off weekend, I usually enjoy kind of sticking around at
Yeah.
home.
Taking it easy. Yeah. I mean, you're busy enough. I guess that's allowed, right?
Yeah, right.
You drive enough in a year.
Yes, I definitely do.
How does that work for you during Endurocross? Do you, I guess with your working, you're race and back home off to the next race.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a busy time of year for me, and then my parents usually go with me and my brother. We kind of all travel as a
Yeah.
family, so we'll get a
Yeah.
hotel room and usually an Airbnb or an Airbnb. It depends on
Yeah.
if it's just me going or if they're coming too, so what the situation is. But other than that, yeah, it's definitely busy. You get home and you go
Yeah.
straight to work and then you're off again.
Yeah. Yeah. Off and trying to fit in gym and riding and all that stuff, right?
It is difficult, that's for sure.
Do you watch some of the guys, Tristan and Spencer and all those guys traveling around together and they're riding,
Yeah.
down in the nicer weather and you're like, come on.
I definitely have FOMO. I get jealous when I see that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's nothing I can really do. I gotta make money.
Yeah.
Being
Yeah,
a pro,
totally. Yeah.
being a pro woman, it's not very profitable. So I gotta make kind of a living outside of that.
Yeah. You didn't buy a Raptor with your enduro winnings.
No, no, that was my own money for that.
that was
hard-earned money
40
right
hour
there.
a week. Yeah. Right on. So, one thing I always like to ask is about, your progression into the pro ranks. Like, what would your advice to be to someone, who's, early teens, they're interested in the enduro world and all those things, based on your path into it, what was good, what was bad, what would your advice to be someone young who wants to go pro?
I would say to not lose hope in that because for me it was really hard because I had to work really hard for it and it's really expensive. So I kind of thought that it probably wouldn't happen, but just to know that there's always a chance. You can do whatever you put your mind to, but never forget to have fun and because that's what ultimately will make you the best is still enjoying what you do. So I would go out and ride and enjoy it, have fun.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a common theme we've heard from a few different people is that, and just that yes mindset, saying yes to adventures, yes to opportunities,
Yes, for sure.
and just And don't forget to smile and slap high fives along the way.
Yep. Always have a good attitude about it. I mean, there definitely is
Yeah.
times where you will be disappointed, but always remember the bigger picture. So,
Yeah. And that's it, right? Yeah. It's, it can feel pretty crappy in the moment many times, but yeah, it's that bigger picture and like looking forward for sure.
yes. Yep.
Excellent. What's your best story from the last year or so? Your best racing, like craziest racing story?
Oh man, probably the one with Rachel and I at Endurocross. I'd have to
Oh,
say.
okay.
It was one of the last
Let's hear it.
rides, and
Yeah.
we'd been battling on and off all year, and this one was neck and neck. I was in the lead a little bit, and then I crashed, and she passed me, and I was pretty close to her. It was kind of a technical course, so I was able to stay on her a little bit, and it came to the last section. Of course, it was tires, and she got wedged in these tires, and it just happens to be 10 feet from the finish line. Like, literally, I could see the checkered flag, and she got stuck, and I'm like, "Oh, this is my opportunity." So I went, and then I got stuck. We were both
Yeah.
stuck in the same obstacle at the same time, right before the finish line. Like, we both could see the checkered flag. Most stressful racing moment of my entire life. And she pulled away just in time, like, probably 3 to 5 seconds before me and crossed the finish line, and I would say it was probably the most exciting yet disappointing racing moments in my entire life. So, I remember that clearly
I
of all
remember
the
that so
racing
well.
adventures last year. So,
Yeah, that was amazing. That was a hell of a moment. Cause yeah, she went charging in. There was already people stuck in there. And I think she thought she was going to just send it right through the middle and she got wedged in. And then you came around. And I think if I remember, you
yeah.
kind of took the inside and you got wedged up against
Mhm.
the tree stump. And then
Mhm.
Melissa was like way back as oh, are you still there? Oh no. I hope we didn't just lose Hallie. Well, you know what? If we did, we were getting to near the end anyway. So if we did lose Hallie, we'll just give her a second here. But yeah, that moment was amazing because Melissa Harten was still, well back, but she was coming and coming and coming. And as I recall, I think Rachel got unstuck. Like Hallie said, Rachel got her situation fixed up, and then Hallie got off the obstacle, got back over it, just ahead of Melissa getting there, and it was something. So, Hallie, yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but we were getting near the end. So you know what? Um, I really appreciate Hallie Marks being able to come on the show. I'm a fan of hers. I think she's, a great young rider who's got a terrific future in this sport. Um, a championship doesn't come easy. And then to follow that up with a championship season in hard enduro with a, third overall in an Endurocross season. I mean, that's a huge year for anyone. That is a great season for anyone. And it was a lot of fun to watch. And hey, you know what? She started off this year right too with the win. Oh, there she is in the chat. I can't see or hear you. She's asking, and I can't see or hear you. So yeah. Hallie says shit. Yeah, it happens. You know what? No big deal. But yeah, she says thank you so much. I enjoyed it. And yeah, I really enjoyed having you on as a guest, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you race some more this season and certainly this fall in Endurocross. I hope I can make it down to Montana for one of those cross country rounds, or you can make it up here to Canada, to Alberta for one of the sprint or cross country rounds. Or there is the also the AMSA off road series, which is full on cross country with some some races that push a little towards the hard enduro side. She's saying yes to that. So again, Hallie, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you a little later down the road. And thanks to everyone for listening. This is episode 8. We're 8 episodes in. It's going really well. We're getting great support from you guys. And thank you so much for supporting North American based and North American focused off-road and enduro journalism. Everybody have a great day. Talk to you later.